What up? Welcome to the 5th episode of the Teenology Podcast, where teens make sense of the world that they are about to change. I'm your host, Aiden Middleton. Today, I'm really ecstatic to be here with you guys, along with my dad, Mr. Keto.
Ecstatic, that's a new one.
Oh, yeah.
And I am Mr. Keto. I lost a lot of LBs on the keto.
Yeah, you really needed it.
That is true. I did need it. I was a fatty. All right, Aiden, what are we going to be talking about on today's episode?
Well, recently in the news, we have had a really awful, tragic situation come where two white men chased and gunned down a black man on a jog named Ahmaud Arbery. So today, we're going to be starting a 2-part series on racism.
Well, that sounds like a heavy one, and that's something that I definitely want to talk about. But before we get to that, we have to do the fan favorite part of the podcast where where I get to be educated and we do our Gen Z slang of the episode. All right, Aiden, I got a word for you. Now, this is a word that has not been redefined from a previous generation into your generation. It's one that I've been wanting to know more about because it is just straight up a new word to Gen Z. And it confuses boomers, and it confuses Gen X, and it confuses millennials. And this word is yeet. Can you tell me what in the world yeet means?
Oh, yeah! Yeet does not have a specific definition. It can mean whatever you want. So if you go, it's usually referred as when you throw something. Like, I know you've probably heard it when people yell Kobe when they throw something.
I've never heard that one either.
You've never heard that either?
No.
No, well, a lot of people times when they, shoot a basketball from half court, they yell Kobe.
Oh, you mean like Kobe Bryant?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then so it's the same with yeet. When you throw a basketball from half court or anything for really far, you go yeet.
So if I threw a ball across the house to you, I'd go yeet.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. It could be like, hey, do you want to go to McDonald's today?
Yeet.
Yeah.
All right. Yeet. So it means anything. It means yes.
Anything
it means
want.
no. It means throw a ball. It means celebrate. It means anything. Like
Yeah, like you could come up to me and be like, Aiden, go clean your room. I'll be like, yeet.
Yeet. All right. Well, I'm gonna start having the word yeet into my. I'm probably actually too old to say yeet, aren't I?
Yeah, you're way too old.
All right. Oh well. Maybe in the next life. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our Gen Z word of the episode.
All right, I got my first question for you.
All right, hit me.
What does the Bible, aka God, say about racism?
All right. A few thoughts on this. Racism is inherently filled with pride. And what I mean by that is that when somebody's racist, they think that one particular ethnicity is more valuable or smarter or better than another ethnicity. And when this happens, what we're actually doing is finding our identity in what our outer self tells us about ourselves rather than what Jesus says about us. It's a pride issue and it's an identity issue. But at the core, racism is a sin issue in our heart. And what Scripture says is that God hates injustice. Racism is a form of injustice. It's treating one person differently simply because of the color of their skin. Psalm 89:14 says that righteousness and justice are the foundation of meaning God, your throne. Steadfast love and faithfulness go before you. So it actually says that the throne that God sits on in heaven is actually built on justice. And then in Romans 12:9, it actually says that we should hate sin. And so it's telling us to hate what he hates, and racism is one of those things.
Okay, so I understand that racism is wrong and sinful, but can you explain why it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single one of us as human beings is made in the image of God, which simply means that we are made in his likeness. This is why we as Jesus followers believe that every single human has value. That's all-encompassing. That means black, white, Latino, Hispanic, Asian, Whatever ethnicity someone is, they all have value. This also includes people with disabilities, the rich, the poor, the homeless. Every single person has dignity, even the ones you might think you don't like. So we should treat them with respect, regardless of if they have earned it or not.
I know that racism isn't a new thing, but sometimes when I hear people talk about it, they say things like, it's 2020, and how is this still happening?
Yeah, unfortunately, like many other awful things on the earth, things like disease, poverty, starvation, and a bunch of other really terrible things, it will never be gone completely. Racism isn't new. It's been around since the beginning of time. We see examples of that all over the Bible. If you've read your history books and a little bit of history, basically every single ethnicity on the planet has been enslaved at some point. And the reason for this is because it's the result of sin. And there's only one way to fix sin, and that's Jesus. Now, knowledge is important, and it's a big part of the equation to helping us overcome it. But the problem with knowledge alone is that knowledge alone doesn't have the power to fix the human heart. Only Jesus can fix those things. So because racism is a sin against God, there's only one way to fix it, and that's through the cross of Christ. And we do that by repenting, which means I'm going in one direction and I'm literally doing a 180 and turning the other direction and walking in the ways that Jesus showed us.
Yeah. Will racism ever go away?
Yeah, it will go away, but as long as we are on earth and there is sin, we will always have some sort of racism to fight against. Scripture says in Revelation 21:4, He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. While we're here on earth, we still need to faithfully fight against injustice. So we keep fighting for those things that are wrong. You can't let that discourage you, but actually it should make us long for heaven where everything will be made right. Because in heaven, nobody's going to be discriminated against, nobody's going to be enslaved, and that's absolutely something that we should look forward to. And there's a lot we can do to fix the problem, and we're actually going to talk about how we do that in the next episode, so you guys make sure and check it out.
Yeah, that was really, really helpful. But could you give us a few pointers to walk away with?
Yeah, so to kind of sum this stuff up, first of all, racism is wrong. It's sinful, it's wicked, and we should absolutely fight against it. Second, we as humans are made in the likeness of God and therefore have value. So we should treat every single human, regardless of how they have treated us or others, with respect and dignity, no exceptions. Third, always fight for what's right, even if we don't see it completely go away in our lifetime.
That was really great information. Thank you, Dad. And I hope this was really helpful for all you guys listening. You guys know how we do things. We keep it no cap on the Teenology Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of our 2-part series on racism. We talked about what Scripture says about racism, and in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about how to help be part of the solutions and what we as teenagers can do to help fix that. Now, if you guys missed any of our other episodes, go back and listen to them. And remember, tell your friends about our podcast and follow us on Instagram at Teenology Podcast and send in your questions that you want to hear about. Don't forget, the Teenology Podcast is where teens make sense of the world that they are about to change. Adios.